Welcome to Audio Path, where we let you in on our experiences, insights, and real-life scenarios working in the music industry. I'm Trent, and I've been a studio owner and operator, a music venue owner and operator, and a musician.
And I'm John. I've been a mix engineer, mastering engineer, live sound technician.
And together, we've got 30 years of experience in the music industry.
Whether you're an artist, an engineer, or somebody who just really likes music, these stories are for you.
Come with us as we pull back the curtain of the music industry.
And let's take a walk down the audio path. Welcome back to another episode of Audio Path Podcast. This is Trent. I'm John.
Hello.
Hopefully you've been listening along. What episode number is this? I don't even know. It's just...
Yeah, I just looked at that. That is 19.
Crazy.
19.
Crazy. Episode 19.
I know.
Man,
We're getting there.
We're getting some numbers.
About to hit the milestone.
That's right.
Yeah.
Coming up on it.
Mm-hmm.
So, very exciting stuff today as we talk about how to approach a mix.
That's right.
And there's no way we're going to teach you how to just mix fully in this, max 45 to an hour podcast.
Yeah.
But what we can do is talk to you about kind of some general philosophy and places that we start that help us kind of get to the finish line a little quicker than if we don't use this process.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of split this thing into, it's going to be one episode, but we're really going to kind of take two approaches. One of them is going to be from the studio side of things. So creating, a studio mix. And then also on the other side, we're going to talk about live mixes. We'll probably talk a little bit about front of house and a little bit about monitors kind of at the same time. So that's where we're living. And I think the guy to take us into the studio mix side of things is this guy right here.
I'll do it.
Sweet.
All right.
Take us in. How do you approach your mixes, Trent?
Totally. Okay. So I've got to, let's just say that everything's been pretty well prepped. I've just finished, tracking for a project, and it's now on me to do the mix for the song. So my session is all already well organized, and everything is pretty much where it needs to live. I use a template, for everything. And so I've probably tracked into that template that then gets turned into my mixing template. And there's a little bit of rearranging whenever I make that shift, but for the most part, it's kind of already there to save time. So we'll assume that that's already been done. So knowing the end result that I'm hoping to get, I do a couple of things in the beginning to make sure that I can get there without having to backtrack myself too much, okay? And now what I'm really saying is, like, before I fire up any plugins or, reach for any piece of, like, outboard gear, I do a basic leveling of the volumes, basically. And it's a very common place to start. Most people probably go there. If you're not doing it that way, it can save you time in the long run if you start with that. That is kind of usually some of the, the final touches could be volume adjustments, but they should be the first adjustments, I think, as well. And so now, like I said, knowing where I'm going at the end, before I even press play on everything, I'm moving my faders down to the common numbers that I know based on my gain structure because I recorded it, right? If I haven't recorded it, it's a little bit of a different, learning thing. If someone's sending me stems, I have to kind of, solo some stuff, play, see what the gain's like, see where I need to go. But if I've recorded it, I kind of know where I'm going. So I'm moving my faders down to like a general area so that I know that it's going to hit my mix bus at the right level by the time I get there. And I will account for compression and things like that along the way. And then there's always adjustment. I can always go back and change it, but that's where I start. I try to get a nice rough mix in the general dB range that I want my buses to be in, and see what it sounds like from there.
Sweet.
So that's where I get things going. And then once I feel like things are starting to sound good, I'm probably already doing some panning and stuff like that because that affects volume and everything like that. And everything needs a place to live. So I'm going to want to put different things in different places. Um, I'm probably still working on my main speakers at this point. I haven't flipped to my secondary speakers or my headphones yet. So I'm getting a nice static mix going on there. And then from there, then I start saying like, okay, what do I need to do? Sometimes there's some like pre-editing that I'll be doing, like excuse me, on the drums, like cutting out a little bit of noise here and there on the toms. Some people do that like before. I kind of do it a little bit along the way. It's just kind of my workflow, just part of it. You can do it however you want to do it. So I'll kind of switch gears back and do a little bit of editing there. I'll go through the main vocal track and I'll clean up all the dead space and stuff during that time, and then make everything pretty and nice. And that just kind of helps clear my mind to be ready to focus on the artistry of this like super massive balancing act that I'm like about to try to do, right?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I'll probably start kicking in a couple of plugins, some of the basic stuff. Like I know I'm gonna have a high pass filter on this, or this, and that's just gonna start to cut some things away and not really, affect or boost volumes or levels or anything like that yet. And then from there, some people approached it in different ways. And you do whatever works for you, right? But I start with, okay, there's two ways that I like to do it. I pinpoint the most important thing in the song and I focus on that first. And then I build everything else around it, right? And then, excuse me, and then I've also done it the other way where I focus on the foundation of the song and I get that to where I like it. And when I say that, all right, well, let me rewind. So the most important thing, maybe that's the vocal, right? So I kind of start with the vocal and I prepare that and I'm feeling good about that. And then I work around that. The other way, I work on the foundation, like I work on the drums and bass if we're talking about a rock song. Um, and I get those feeling really good, and then I start bringing everything else into it. Like I might not necessarily have. Sometimes I'll mute some of those other things, but I might just have them kind of lowly in the mix, and then I'm making sure I find the right level for the other stuff, and then I'll bring those in, and then we'll do this readjustment thing, right? So that's kind of where I get going, and then from there, whichever, depending on the song, whichever way I've chosen to approach it, whether it's very vocal heavy or it's like it's a good blend, and the vocal is not necessarily something that needs to be on top, but it needs to be a part of the other instruments, right? Um, then I'll start looking into some things that might need some compression. Um, you know, is the kick drum hitting me hard like I want it to do? Does it maybe need a little push? Could a clipper come in handy in this situation? What is the EQ looking like? Does it, my levels are good. It's a good sounding source, but could it use a little more low end? Does it need some more 80 hertz? Does it need a little bit of slap so that it kind of comes through a little? Does it need that? So start thinking about all those little things, and then I'll start thinking about the other instruments. Their piano. What is it sounding like? Where does it need to be? The guitars. Are there multiple guitars? Do they need to be panned out in different situations? And what's more important? And where's the rhythm? Like, there's a lot of moving parts, right? I'm probably rambling on a little bit here, but
You're good, dude.
that's kind of how it goes. And then from there, like once you've kind of got everything to where it's sounding good, right? Like you're starting to vibe with it, right? You're playing it back and like maybe you find yourself singing along or like you're bobbing along with it, like it's feeling right. Then at that point I'll start to, and I may have already done this a little bit, but eventually automation will come in. And then it's like, okay, feeling really good about the chorus. I think we're hitting this is really right. Now I need to like build in some like dynamic range and like emotion from part to part to part.
Mhm.
And automation is a big way to do that.
Yeah.
You know, bring down the volume in the verse of, of the guitars and let the vocal kind of just like sit in there, or, bump the chorus up for everything, or, it depends on your instrumentation, but I use that to kind of like move the song through and like from part intro to verse to chorus to bridge to outro and like all of that. And then once I've done that, then it's time to start testing some stuff. Then I might be flipping to my other speakers and seeing like, okay, now what's it sound like over here? Probably go back and do some adjustments. And then it's like, okay, let me check in the headphones. Okay, stereo's feeling pretty good. Maybe I should widen that a little bit, or that's too far away from that. Maybe we'll bring it back in. Probably hadn't said this yet, but effects, like if there's reverb on the vocal or on the drums or anything else, that's probably already happened by now, but I'll be fine tuning that stuff in this little like checking phase here. And like, is my reverb too long? Does the vocal sound washed out? And I try to base that off of the tempo of the song.
Mm-hmm.
And same thing for delays. Should it be synced with the tempo? Most of the time, probably. Sometimes not. You can do some cool stuff outside of the box. And then I'm kind of in like this nice phase to where like I'm feeling good about it. It's sounding good. It's doing what I want it to do. It's got some dynamics. It has some emotion to it. Hopefully, I'm conveying what the artist is, wanting. I'm as far as like what they are telling me, either I've already had a little bit of a guide of something that they've given me that they want me to do. And then sometimes it's fast and sometimes it's not much at all. Sometimes just like, do your thing.
Mm-hmm.
But all the time, I'm like, ask for references. I've probably already had that before the recording part even started, but I'm popping back and forth with references here and there. I usually will listen to the references before I get started as like a guide. And so I've got that in my head before I start really working on it. And then after this last little phase that I'm talking about here where I'm testing, I'll go back and listen to those references to make sure that I've hit it right. And then I'm usually taking it outside of the studio to see how it holds up. Give it the car test, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then from there, back into the studio to make some adjustments. Jump back to the reference again. Test in a couple other places. Test it on like earbuds. Maybe test it on my laptop speakers on my computer. See what it's like on there. And then from there, if I, have built in the time, I'll put it away for a little while. Maybe a day or two.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then come back to it and see what it sounds like.
Yep.
And that tells a lot right there.
It really does.
Yeah.
It really does.
So I know that was a lot, but that's
great, man.
That's kind of my crash course
Yeah,
into how
you're giving away your approach, man. I like it.
pretty much.
It's good. That's good.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
What about you, man? What do
Yeah.
you do? Maybe some differences,
Yeah.
some likenesses?
Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I think is going to be cool about this episode is just hearing that there's not one way to do it.
There's not.
But there are some things that I think are kind of industry standard, and we do some very similar things.
Uh-huh.
For starters, I start with volume 2. Here's a hot take for you. I don't use a template.
Oh, shoot. I didn't know that.
Yep.
What?
Hot take, I don't have a pre-built template.
Do tell.
Yeah. So I did for a while. I started, I had built a template that worked for most things. And I had, like people who build templates do, options I could turn on or off depending on what I
Yeah.
needed or whatever.
Yeah.
And I've been doing this for I stopped using a template like 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
And it's, let me tell you why.
Okay, please.
I felt like I was just doing the same thing over and over.
All right, that's fair. I
Okay.
can see that. Yep.
And sure, like it was efficient. But I took this approach about 3 years ago where I was like, I got all these plugins.
Yep.
Some of them I got on sale somewhere, and truthfully, I've never even used them.
Yep.
So I just kind of hit this point where I was like, I really am just going to spend some of my downtime, like we talked about in a previous episode, learning my plugins really well. And now I have this little, because I'm a Logic guy, I know you can search for plugins now in the most recent update in Logic, but you couldn't back when I was doing this. So I had this plugin called Plug Search, and you could search by type.
Okay.
Similar to in Pro Tools, you can be like compressor and all your compressors show up. Plug Search does that, but it's all modifiable as well.
Cool.
So it was kind of like a hack for Logic, essentially.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm going to learn every single compressor that I have in here. I'm going to learn every single EQ and whatever. And now I spent so much time doing that I have it kind of in my brain. I know what I have. And now when I hear something, I'm like, okay, that's a problem. And I think I know the right tool to fix that. And so I'll pull something up. Or sometimes I pull multiple ones up.
Yeah.
But I'm finding that I'm not just reaching for the same like on-off switch. I'm going to like, okay, I need a compressor here. And I look at my list of compressors. I'm like, that one will do what I want it to do.
Nice.
And I pop that in. And so, but if you were to pull up one of my mix sessions, you'd probably be surprised at how few plugins I use.
Yeah.
That's
a good thing. I've definitely cut back on my amount of plugin usage as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I'm in a different boat than you because you're tracking most of your stuff. So you have a lot of control on that end.
Yeah.
The plugins I use tend to be problem-solving plugins.
Yeah.
A lot more than anything else.
Yeah.
When I need to really clean things up that were just like, ooh, this tone is not working.
Yeah.
Or, like, oh man, there's so much cymbal bleed in these vocal mics or whatever.
Yeah, we do have a different approach because I'm usually like, I'm happy with this. How can I make it better?
Right. Right. Yep.
Yeah.
So anyway, and that's a hot take. I know templates are the thing right now. I truly start this is different from when I'm producing. So like if I've produced the song, I literally bounce it all out like I am sending it to a mix engineer.
Okay.
And then I pull up a brand new session and I load all the tracks in and start from
scratch.
Total scratch.
Interesting.
And I use volume first. I think volume is the most powerful tool. That's really what we're doing, right?
It's all volume.
It's all volume.
Yeah.
And so I pull the tracks in and I don't actually organize the tracks by like this is all drums, this is all guitars, this is all or whatever. At first, when I'm doing volume, I actually load all my tracks in and I put them in the order that they come in first in the song.
Okay. Oh, okay.
Yep.
All right.
So it's like, let's say the song starts off with a raw vocal. That'll be my first track.
Top thing.
Then the next thing that comes in is acoustic guitar. That's next. Then the kick drum comes in. Then it's kick, you know what I mean? All the way down.
Oh, interesting.
So I can very quickly get volume going.
Yeah.
Now I typically will start though.
Sense.
I'll find where the vocal is or the kick drum, and I'll set volume to that. So I'll get the kick drum coming in. This is the only part that's technical, really, of this process for me. I get the kick drum coming in at whatever my target is. Let's say it's like I want it peaking at -6 or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's the kick drum, or let's say I want the vocal doing the same thing, like at -6. Then that's kind of my ground, that's my foundation. Then I kind of start turning volume up kind of as I go on things.
Right.
And I will, set my DAW to where if I hit spacebar, it picks back up from the last place I put the cursor, so that I can just kind of keep doing that like 2 or 3 times.
Yeah.
And then when I feel like, okay, that's a good static volume, then I'll move to the next one and do the same thing, and then kind of keep going.
Interesting.
and it sped things up for me a ton.
I was gonna ask, like, what's the difference in the amount of time from start to finish that you're experiencing here?
It's pretty significant. I can get a
Huh.
static mix, just volume, and I include panning in that too. I'll
Yeah.
do panning sometimes, um, probably most of the time. I'll get a rough static mix dialed in, let's say, with a 32 track song or whatever. I'm probably getting the thing done in 35, 40 minutes, something like that,
Pretty good.
which I feel like is pretty good.
That is. Yeah.
Now, I mean,
The template took an hour, maybe?
probably about an hour.
Okay. Yeah.
And a lot of that is just organizing the tracks that way and
Yeah.
not relying on, oh, did I gain stage this
Right.
compressor correctly or whatever?
Yeah.
I really just try to do volume. Then I will kind of sweeten things or fix things
Yeah.
as needed.
Yeah.
Then, once I have that set, I reorganize the tracks again when I'm done with that and put all my drums together and group them
Okay.
and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Just to get the static mix out of the way.
Yeah.
And then automation, like you were talking about, comes later for me.
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
lot of
You
the
wanna
time.
you wanna save that for later because once you automate something, you can't change its volume as easily. You
Right.
can't just reach over and pull the fader up or down. You gotta go into the automated line and
Yeah.
group that adjustment and
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So that's why we save that for later.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And editing can be a part of that process too.
Yeah.
It just kind of what you were talking about, like cleaning the drums up.
Yep. I do that.
All that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
Same thing with vocals. I do a lot of manual like gain changing on the vocals.
Yeah.
As I think most people do.
I do that as I'm cleaning up that dead space along the way. I'm like, oh, that was a little
Yeah.
soft.
Let's-
We could bring that bad
let's
boy
bump-
up. Or
Exactly.
whoa, that one's getting out there. Let's taper that down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
So yeah, that's and man, really like the mixes that I do now are primarily recorded live,
okay.
and so that's why I've got to do a lot more fixing than you do
Definitely.
because it's like, okay, let's say at this one section, like hopefully I have multiple takes. Although I have worked in situations where it's like one take wonder, this is what you got.
Yeah, you
you
got
know?
what you got.
And then I wind up having to take like, let's say somebody takes a lead guitar solo and they don't play it perfectly, which is like pretty common.
Yeah.
I've got to take little pieces of them playing elsewhere and build this guitar solo out.
Yeah, that's wild.
And like that's kind of an art form itself. Or I just play it myself.
Oh,
But
what do you mean?
ideally, I like to use their sound if I can.
Yeah,
But yeah, all of that kind of happens similarly at the same time. But you've got to do a volume rough in
Yeah.
before you can actually even start listening and making those choices. Otherwise, you're not going to be hearing things
Exactly.
correctly. It's like we've got to have a baseline to listen to before we can do anything else.
Yeah, exactly. And when I'm saying like before I even press play, I'm moving play like the volumes to where it's because I'm trying to hit like that what John said, like -6 or somewhere in that range on my mix bus. And so that's kind of like the goal area. So you kind of got to get that baseline in there to make sure you're hitting that. And if you start to go over it, I'll just grab everything and pull it back down. It happens way more. I'm never going under it. I don't think I've ever done that.
Right.
But we're always pushing things to be louder. But try to keep that in mind. You don't want to get too far into your mix and things be way over your target, because that's really going to affect the dynamics. When you pull everything back, you're going to kind of have to rethink things.
Yeah. And sometimes as I'm going along, I'll do exactly what you just said. I'll be like, nah, this isn't sounding right. And I'll just put everything back at zero and start again from the beginning.
Yep.
The more you do, the more you take this approach, the better you'll get at it.
Yeah.
And you won't have to do this many times. But yeah, sometimes, that's a great point in general. Sometimes when I'm making a mix, it's like, no, this just isn't working.
Yeah,
and I'll literally just be like, and we're starting again from the beginning. This
Yeah.
is just not what I wanted to.
I've been there, and I'm sure everybody's seen the memes, like, mixing the track at, whatever, midnight, and then checking it at noon the next day. And it's like, oh.
It's like, oh, this is terrible.
It's like, wow, I spent 2 hours on that late last night, and I was super stoked about it, and it doesn't sound great.
Right.
It's like, that happens. And I save my sessions by day.
That's a good idea.
So whatever the calendar day that it is that I pull it up, the first thing I do before I make a single change is I save it to a new date. so that I can always go back to yesterday if I need to. If I'm doing some more extreme moves, I'll save a new session for whatever. Like sometimes if I'm doing stimming or whatever in the middle of a project, but I know things are coming back to me, I'll do that and then save it separately so I can go back to the consolidated session and stuff like that.
That's nice.
Just to cover your back, because you never know, like you said, you get too far down the road and you're like, this is not sounding good. Let's start over.
Yeah, let's take it
over.
back. Let's just take it back.
That's interesting about the plugins. I mean, at first I was like, whoa, we do things way differently. But I guess in reality, we have a similar approach. Yours is just a lot more, what's the best word for it? Exploratory, probably. My template has 4 or 5 options of whatever plugin ready to go. And so based on the song or the instrument or whatever, I'll have 4 or 5 different compressors that are just right there to be able to be turned on and then tweaked, instead of not just one, because that's like, I could see how you would fall into a rut that way and everything starts to turn out the same. So I have options to start, but I'm not searching for each one every time. So,
and I think part of the reason we take different approaches is because you have control over your standards, basically, like of gain staging.
Totally.
You're like, whatever your standard is, like I'm going to record bass at -8 or whatever.
Right.
I don't have that luxury. So So for me, I've discovered it makes more sense for me to just have the list and be like, yeah, I want this compressor, because then I'm going to have to dial that compressor in.
Yeah, no matter
it's
what.
like, who knows what this bass was recorded at.
Exactly.
It's unfortunately not going to be standardized. Now I could go through and grab every track and push the gain up or down if I wanted to and create those standards.
That would take some time, though.
It would take a lot of time, is the thing.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But honestly, what you're talking about is really the way to do it. Is like, have some standards.
Yeah.
Have some, like, okay, this is what we're going to record bass at. This is what we're going to record guitars at.
Exactly.
That's by far the best way to do it.
Yeah, that's how you can kind of get to your end goal in a more easily efficient way and not have to lean more on processing, to get there for sure.
Without a doubt.
Which, we use these tools like EQ and compression and reverb and delay and like stereo imaging and all these great little things. But at the end of the day, like, if it sounds really good before you get into any of that, you're going to be so much better off. So much better off. It's all about the source tone.
All about the source tone, man.
That's what it comes down to. But as a caveat, some of these tools, especially like compressors and some effects and stuff like that, they can really shape the vibe of the thing.
They sure can.
And become like part of the tone that you wouldn't want it if it was turned off. You know what I mean? Once you've had it, kind of thing. Little Pandora's boxes over here, right?
Yeah, I know. Seriously. Yeah, and I mean, of course, a big thing I do frankly, I think 100% of the time is parallel compression on drums.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Big time. But sometimes I want a different compressor doing the crushing, depending on the genre, depending on the tone of the drums, depending on what feel I'm kind of going for in the song and all of that. And yeah. So what one compressor does not fit all.
No, definitely not.
Yeah.
And that's a good kind of segue into, I use a lot of bussing in my sessions. Almost all of my effects are parallel effects. Not all, but a lot of them are. And then parallel compression, sometimes EQ, sometimes duplicating tracks and, doing whatever I wanted to do to it and then creeping it back in. And then a lot of grouping so that I can affect multiple things at the same time that should be getting the same treatment, so that I'm not bogging down the computer with more and more plugins that is going to be the same thing, right? And some people have different approaches about that. Like, I've seen there's more people talk about, or they practice not grouping nearly as much. Like, don't don't treat things as separate things as much. Try to keep it more like as one thing. And when you say it like that, it makes a lot of sense. But then when you say like, well, this thing is gonna want to need to sound like this thing because they're like partners in this game here, maybe they should share this thing, then that also makes sense. So there's
Mhm.
really no real one way
Yeah.
to do it. It's
Yeah.
just whatever feels right for you and whatever you really comes down to workflow. Like I've just kind of built in a workflow that I know really well, and it speeds me up to get to what I want to get to.
Yeah.
You know.
Totally.
So
And just to make sure that we're bringing the listeners along with us, parallel compression is exactly, or parallel anything is exactly what it sounds like. You're using the natural original sound and source, but at the same time, you're also using a source that is altered, whether it's like it has a lot of additional compression on it, and you're mixing that sound in with the sound of the natural instrument, or maybe effects can be in parallel a lot of the time.
Yep.
So maybe you have like a really big like chorus effect going on with your vocal. You don't just want that sound. You want to kind of blend it and mix it in a little bit. So
Yep.
parallel anything is literally what it sounds like. It is side by side with the
Yep.
original
You
sound.
have the dry or the unaffected, and you have the wet or the affected thing, and they kind of take a balance like that.
That's right.
A lot of modern plugins nowadays, you have a dry wet knob or fader or something that you can just put it on the thing, and it does that in the background, which is cool. But there are some benefits of keeping them separated like that.
Totally.
Cool. So, like we're saying, there's a lot of different ways to approach the mix, and experiment, try things out. Just try to find what works for you, and you'll get there for sure. It's a ever evolving learning experience, and my template I've been using for 15 years now, and it is invaluable to me at this point because I've been literally working on it for that long and saving new versions of it and adjusting it and building it up. And John's non-template is brand new for it's good.
I should rephrase. It's not that I don't have a template, because I do. I definitely reach for some of the same stuff every time. I don't know. I really don't know why I do it, to be honest with you. I guess
I'm
it's
just picking on you. It's not a bad way. To
I guess it
approach
just feels more creative. And you know what?
It does.
I'm kind of reaching the point where I've done it so long where it's like, I really am reaching for most of the same stuff now. I'll probably build another template.
Well, that's kind of what it comes down to. I commend you for, realizing that, because I've definitely hit those moments in my career where I'm falling into the same patterns, right? Like there's all these different pathways out there, but the one that I see with my feet prints already on it are sometimes the ones that I just keep walking down, And it can be it's a comfort thing and a speed and efficiency thing, but not always the most creative thing.
Yeah.
And I think we need to, maybe there's an in between. Like John definitely like dove into like a new way to approach his mixes, and it seems to be working out great for him. And maybe that works for you as well. And I have my approach, but there could be a nice happy in between there. Maybe you have like this little template that doesn't have a bunch of options already set, that you do have to search for some, but you've got some that are already there. Like maybe there's a middle ground, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Cool. Well, maybe we should shift to some live
Stage.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Let's talk about some live approaches.
Cool. I'll let you kick into this one.
Okay, yeah. There's a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think has absolutely revolutionized live mixing, in the last decade is virtual soundcheck. Being able to, get multi-tracks from a band and not just build a show file, but play them into your show file and really spend time fine-tuning it is game-changing. I mean, it's to a point now where if I don't have that and I'm kind of building a show file sort of like blindly, I don't feel nearly as prepared walking up.
Yeah.
That being said, that's not always a reality, and depending on like who you're working with or like your console limitations, maybe
Yeah.
you can't have virtual sound check. So in general, though, here I'll tell you all kind of how I do things. First, starting with front of house. If I'm and I'm fortunate in that I don't have to do this that often, but if I'm blindly walking up to a console and I don't have pretty much like anything, I'm not really ever going to walk up to a console without a show file pre-built. But if that's all I have, and I've got to get a front of house mix dialed in, I start very similarly. The first thing I do is I visually figure out, okay, let's look at this stage and let's figure out what we're going to need sound reinforcement on. And this is all after I've done all of the PA tuning and all of the, all that fun stuff. Let's say I'm in a room that seats like 400 people or whatever, and there's a drum kit, and the drum kit has no shielding, no enclosure, nothing. It's just a drum kit in a room that seats 400 people. Let me tell you what I'm not going to need to hear through the PA, the cymbals.
Yeah, probably not.
Okay, like not going to need this.
Yeah.
Not saying we're not going to put microphones on them because they may need to hear those in their monitors.
They might. And they may want to record it.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yep.
So anyway, so yeah, I'm visually assessing what are the acoustic instruments. Here's just a fact: the loudest acoustic instrument is the instrument you have to mix to.
Yes. That's very good.
That's just
Say that again, John.
okay. The loudest acoustic instrument is the instrument that you have to mix to in a live environment. Plain and simple.
Often the drums in smaller rooms.
Yep. So if you go to a concert in a small room and you know nothing about sound and you're like, why is it so freaking loud in this room? If there's a drummer playing with full sticks, not hot rods or anything, in that room, that's why.
That's why.
Because the PA has to match the level of that drummer.
Yeah, you can't, you got to be able to hear the vocal or the guitar, and you have to turn it up to as or above to be able to do so.
Correct.
So you can't just say, oh, man, so loud in here. Just turn all the channels down some. It's like, well, then you won't hear anything
Then
else except the drums.
You'll just hear drums. You'll hear a lot of sounds.
What you got to do is say, hey, buddy, could you dial it back a little bit? Or here's some hot rods. And those conversations are tough with some people.
This is why drummers hate audio engineers.
Yeah, yeah. Some drummers get it.
They do.
Those are the awesome drummers that you want to work with, but you won't always be in that position, especially if you're moving around from venue to venue and whatever. It can be a battle.
Mm-hmm.
But it's the truth, though. And when people in the crowd are like, it's just way too loud. And you're like, well, it was what it was because that was the bottom. That was the baseline.
That was the loudest acoustic instrument.
The loudest acoustic instrument.
Mm-hmm.
For example, at Ted's, if you've ever been to a show at Ted's here in Wilmington, and you've seen a horn player, like a saxophone or trumpet, and you see a microphone on that, just know that it's because I'm recording it and it's not in the PA at all.
Mm-hmm.
That instrument is loud enough in that room that it does not need to be coming out of the speakers.
Yep.
And it never will.
Right.
But,
totally.
It's just a perception thing.
It is a perception thing, man. And people who don't understand audio, I mean,
they're like, can you turn the saxophone down? I'm like,
you're
nope,
like,
it's not even in the system.
Yeah. You're not even hearing it in the PA.
Yeah.
That saxophone is just blaring.
Right.
So, that's always the starting point for me. In those scenarios, a lot of the time what I'll do is I'll put the kick through the PA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And pretty much nothing else.
Yeah, that's
so. Starting there, of course, that's unideal, and there are ways if you have a room that's that size to get a really great, low volume mix, but it involves absolutely enclosing your drums.
Yeah,
just fully enclosing them, and
And that takes away from the sound some, doesn't it?
It does sometimes a little
Yeah,
bit. It does
sometimes.
sometimes. Although it can still make it, you can still make an incredible mix with a fully enclosed drum kit. In fact, you can probably make a better mix if you know what you're doing.
Right.
So, okay. So back to what we're talking about.
Got off on a
But
tangent.
yeah, dude, I'll talk about that all day.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I start. And during a sound check, I'll have each instrument kind of go through and add on each other, just classic traditional sound check style. And as I'm doing that, I'm really keeping in mind one thing, and it is how loud can I get these vocals before feedback? Because that is the delicate balancing act. Ideally, if you have if you've tuned your PA correctly, you're gonna have a lot of headroom before you reach feedback. But in a room like this example that we're choosing to use, 300, 400 person room with a live drum kit, and you've got to get vocals above that loud drum kit. That's going to be a challenge because those vocals are going to need a little bit of compression, and when you compress vocals, you run the risk of having feedback.
Yep.
Also, any microphone that is exposed to cymbals, the more you compress it, the more cymbals you're going to get.
Yep.
You're just going to
Cymbals
get
are going to come on through.
Yep. And so it's just, honestly, I feel bad for the sound people of the world who are having to mix 300 to 400 person clubs every day because it's one of the most challenging environments.
It's a hard spot.
And it's usually, not that good of a PA, and you don't have the tools that you need to get the job done, and it's a challenge. Fortunately, there are some great tools available now, like to do like de-feedback. There's literally an AI that's out now called defeedback.ai.
Nice.
That you can run as a plugin in Waves Performer, Super Act Performer, or you could run it in a DAW if you wanted to. So anyway, there are some tools to do that. But those are the two things that I start with is I'm taking a look at my stage. I'm figuring out how silent is my stage. If it's not very, I already know I'm just going to have a little bit of a challenge on my hands.
Yeah.
Can't be compressing these vocals as much as I would want to before feedback. Guitar amps. Is the guitarist playing on stage with their amp, or do they have it off stage mic'd? A lot of the time, the guitarist is the loudest acoustic instrument, and every guitarist listening is like, I've had a sound person tell me to turn my amp down before, and we have reasons for that. It's like, if I'm in that same environment, I need you to come down a little bit because I'm no longer mixing the PA. I'm mixing your natural sound in the room.
Right.
And I think there's this trend right now, not to get off on too much of a tangent. There's a trend right now in live mixing where the engineers want everything to be set up perfectly.
Yeah.
They want a fully isolated stage, and that makes a huge difference. I mean,
Totally.
that's how you get an incredible live mix in many ways, is isolation. Fully enclosed drum kit. They want the guitar amps run off the stage, shooting into like some kind of soundproofing material, or like in a separate room. They want a keyboardist playing directly into the PA. They want a bassist playing directly into the PA and all that. You can get a really great sound out of that if the band is all working together with you. But 9 times out of 10, when we're doing live stuff, at smaller churches or in venues, it's not like that. It's not ideal.
Have that, yeah.
So you've got to make the most of what is given to you, and you've got to mix accordingly. Mixing isn't just sitting at a console and playing with faders.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, mixing is asking a drummer, "Hey man, I know," bringing him a sandwich.
That's right.
And being like, "Hey man,
hey buddy,
I got some hot rods for you. I'm sorry."
That's right.
And they can obviously choose to tell you to suck eggs or play with rods.
That's right.
The sound engineer is trying to balance things, and so, or going up to a guitarist and be like, I need you to turn your volume down. Or, I mean, sometimes I have to tell a guitarist to turn their volume up. Yeah. Honestly, I've had to do that just as many times as I've had to tell them to turn it down if I've got a live drummer.
Right.
Tell a vocalist, I need you to really eat that microphone. I need you to get closer to it.
Closer, yeah.
Because otherwise we're just going to hear cymbals through your microphone.
Yeah. Or like, it sounds muffled, you're getting too close.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's like, I don't have a multi-band compressor on this console.
Right.
So anyway, that is just as much mixing as, I'm going to put this compressor on it, and I'm going to EQ it this way, and I'm going to put this much of it in.
Yep.
it's two sides of the same coin,
Yeah.
really.
Totally.
So if I have an ideal environment, though, I start with the unideal environment because it's more realistic. A lot of churches now have really well-treated, spaces and stuff like that. And my approach is a little bit different there. I'm really getting nitpicky on stuff. I'm like, okay, I'm going to use this like API 2500 in parallel on my drums bus and like do a crush bus setup and really get them punchy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
My approach varies hugely depending on what I'm doing
Yeah.
and the environment that I have to mix in.
Yeah.
But I think in order to be an audio engineer, you have to know how to work in all environments.
You do. Yeah.
How to make the best of whatever situation you're given.
Exactly. The unideal situation will probably be the most common situation.
Yes.
So be prepared.
Yeah. And to keep it, because I know we're short on time here, to keep it brief on the monitor side of things, it's pretty similar. I literally am just like, what do these people need to hear depending on where they're standing?
Yep.
If you're standing if you're on wedges and you're standing right next to a drum kit, you probably don't need to hear drums.
Probably not.
You can hear them just fine. Vocalists, it's like, okay, do they need to hear all the vocalists that are singing at the same time? Probably not.
Probably not.
They need to hear themselves above the other vocalists, and they're, we can use panning to kind of get them there or whatever. And I've talked a lot about monitoring in a previous episode, so check that one out. But
definitely,
it's all similar. It's look at the environment, figure out what needs sound reinforcement, and go from there.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Cool. Well, I feel like that's probably a good overview for us.
Me too, man.
Cool.
Me too. Those are our mix approaches.
That's it. That's how we get it going. And, just like in the studio, there's no real one right way to do it. When you find yourself in the venue situation, like you should know what you need to do based on where you are and what's going on. And just keep that into account and work with the band because it's a definite partnership there.
Totally is. Yeah.
So
cool.
Awesome. Well, what are we working on?
Let's see. I am doing some video shoots.
Yep.
So going to two different churches and capturing some video. One of them is technically like a conference, but it's at a church. So capturing their keynote, and then I'll be doing the video edit of that keynote as well. Getting some B-roll for this other church that we're going to probably, me and this other guy are probably going to turn into a, I can't remember what it is for this one. It may be like a welcome video for their website or something like that. And then kind of, that's just 2 days. And then kind of sprinkled in there is doing some post-production audio for some other videos that I'm helping a guy with. So
tight.
Yeah.
Sounds
That's what I got going on.
Awesome.
How about you?
Yeah. Got a couple different things rolling right now. I'm working with the Brown Dirt Cowboys on a couple new singles they've got cooked up. Having a great time with that. My nephew Zach playing the drums and brother-in-law Alex on the guitar, and it's cool. It's been a fun time, and they've got some good new tunes, and I love all the other guys in the band, and we're having a good time with that. So
sick, dude.
That's been good. Beyond that, I've got my dude Jared Michael Klein in the studio working on a couple of new tunes for his band Bacon Grease, and that's been cool too. We Jared and I kind of work off and on with each other. It seems like over the years, every so often, and I think this is the first time we've been with his project Bacon Grease. Jared's in several projects, and this is the first time with that one, and it's been cool. Like those guys, and we're really hitting it off. So
Sweet.
It's been
that
good.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it's good, man. It's good stuff. So
awesome.
Yeah, so thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of the Audio Path podcast, where John and I try to tackle the music industry from a small city perspective and just our own insights and takeaways, and cover all sorts of different kind of topics. So if you've liked this one, maybe consider giving us a sub, give us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, tell us about how you approach your mixes. There's no one way to do it, so we'd be happy to hear about that. If you want to fire up a more private conversation, then shoot us an email. It's audiopathpodcast@gmail.com. Check us out online at audiopathpodcast.com. And let's see. I think that's about it, right?
Yeah, man, that sounds good. So
We did it.
yeah,
All right.
we approached the mix.
That's right. Well, until next time, everyone, steady the path.
Steady the path.